Welcome to the February 28th, 2023 Infrastructure Committee meeting. Here. Yeah. No, I got it. Okay. We'll make a motion to approve the prior meeting.
Second.
All in favor? Unanimous. Okay. Is there any public comment either from the audience or from Zoom?
Is this our only chance?
This is, yeah, sadly your only chance.
Okay, I'm here to express my disapproval about the bridge.
Can you say your name and address?
Yeah, Chris Hewitt.
Thanks.
I live on the south. I would just like to say that it's been 3 years and you all seem like nice people, but clearly anything that you say promises wise, I can't, you can't trust that. It's been 4 years.
Yep. There'll be an update on the bridge.
I know there's no update.
In the agenda.
There's been nothing but updates. I appreciate that, but come on guys.
Okay, well, we'll wait for the update and we'll be happy to tell you what's going on. Okay, is there anybody in Zoom? I can't control this.
No, there's no answer.
Okay, so the first item is an update from Parks and Rec. Manager Brian, do you have anything to add from the last meeting, or maybe Gene, because you were both there?
So I'll start. So the agenda for the last meeting was included in your packet, and one of the main things the committee talked about was the master park plan and how we're moving along with that. Basically, we have to wait at this point until we have an executed grant contract from DCNR, which I expect to get like early to mid-March, and then we can submit the waiver that the committee recommended that council approved and have Simone Collins start working with us on that project. That was the main thing I was at the meeting to talk about, so otherwise I defer to Jane about any other items from that meeting.
It's okay.
Yeah.
The minutes are in the packet, so. Okay, the next item is potential actions for Borough Council. There's a proposal from Pannoni to enhance our borough GIS systems. And it would incorporate the borough's existing sewer data, roadway pavement data, and bikes and road data. This is potentially 40 hours of their effort, so I guess Manager Bryant brought it here for our approval, and then potentially it could go to council on Thursday, is that?
We do have money already budgeted for it. I just want to make sure, again, like a number of projects we talked about here, there are a number of categories in the budget that are kind of broader sort of things, whether it's engineering or the various building repair projects we've had here at 100 Conway. And I'm really looking more for guidance from this committee to make sure that money that council has already budgeted is being spent, in accordance with how we think council wanted it to be when they approved that funding. So just to feel what this committee wants to do is to determine the action that's taken.
I would recommend doing it. The GIS just is a very high value thing. I mean, it really pays back a lot of value. It saves us a lot of money because we're doing planning efforts without having redoing the wheels, reinventing the wheels. So
Yeah.
I think now that it's set up, we should definitely invest in maintaining it.
Are they saying, or should we be paid there? Are they saying that?
Well, maybe I can give some background on what we're actually here. Thank you. So, as we talked about before, Public Works has been working to map our sewer and stormwater system via GIS. In addition, Public Works recently did a project to map our existing parking signage via GIS. I'm really grateful for how quickly Public Works got that done. And so that led me to kind of think a bit about, well, you know, it's like we have this sign map over here, we have this sewer map over there, we have other existing GIS records that have been collected either from Panoni or from the county or from the borough over the past few years. And it just seemed to make sense to me, well, what if we put all that on one application, and then you can just toggle, you know, given what you're trying to figure out, which sort of infrastructure you want or don't want to see. And the most obvious example that came to mind that I mentioned in the memo was, as we figure out our road paving projects starting for next year, you know, on one screen we could see the map that Panoni previously did of our roadway conditions. We could see a map of the stormwater and sewer lines Public Works has been doing, and we could have from our comp plan the overlay for various bike routes and multimodal improvements that the borough has, you know, been a part of planning and pledging to do. And then that way when we do a road segment, we'll know, okay, this road segment needs this paving, this stormwater or sewer repair, and this active transportation improvement, and that's why it all gets done at the same time.
Would that also include stormwater?
It would, yeah. Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, so it sounds great. Is that like a not to exceed number, the 40 hours?
That's probably, they're usually pretty spot on. I mean, we work, it's like the hour, that's pretty much where it would be. And I would say, even on the day-to-day with this, really to Jeff's benefit, having all that data in like one spot where they just pop it open and like they find the sanitary, you can find all the information, it's just there. And it really does help both day-to-day and then also planning, like you were explaining.
And Aaron, just a clarifying question for you to make sure I understand. So when we talk about 40 hours, obviously different staff at Panoni are paid different rates and that kind of thing. But I think it would probably be safe to say, I mean, we're probably talking somewhere in give or take $5,000 range. We're talking.
Correct. Most of the work is done on GIS is like at the technician level. So yes, it's probably about where. Yes.
Well, then yes, it's still true that we already have money budgeted for it then.
So then this doesn't need to go to council?
No, it would not, as long as the committee is comfortable with us proceeding with that.
Yeah.
I think it's a critical part of the planning process and it'll really help to implement whatever things are ready to do.
Okay, and now the mainline greenway, that one I guess does have to go to council if we,
That would, yes.
so,
So,
let's take that one.
yeah, so having had a chance to chat both during and before Jane's time as a member of Borough Council, something we talked about is as the mainline greenway is progressing, having the Borough Council, the Borough for many years now has talked about how we support the mainline greenway. There are plenty of recordings and council minutes with that, but the Borough has never officially done a resolution. And the benefits of Borough Council doing that and formalizing that support is that's then a document that has, you know, myself, folks like Gene, other folks are trying to advocate for the completion of mainline greenway. That's a document that can be provided to other officials and constituents to demonstrate Borough Council's advocacy for the project and help move it along as we're trying to see it, make progress. It's that.
Yeah, and the other thing I have to add is it's just very timely because Lower American Township, they're finally moving forward with engaging with planning and Grand Valley Forge to start the mainline greenway planning process. And I believe they've already had preliminary meetings and they're going to start the planning process in March. And it's tentative, but I think they will probably bring the plan forward to the Board of Commissioners probably in the summertime. So in the meantime, whatever community support we can provide to some political will, to build political will to get built, good action.
And there's no financial commitment being requested at this time, right? So it seems pretty
Sure,
straightforward.
and to be honest, it's actually, the boroughs component has actually been budgeted for the last 3 years of budgets. So, myself and, I'm sure Eric and Jeff are all, ready and excited for it to move along. We just need, last minute approval, so.
Okay, great, thanks.
So it sounds like the committee would be fine with me working with, the borough solicitor to write that resolution.
Sure. Okay, so the next item is the North Avenue Bridge. And I'll just start off and then I'll let Manager Bryant give a more detailed update. But, it's taken way too long. We all agree. But, we're up against a lot of, government bureaucracy, and we're pushing them as hard as we can. And we're occasionally making trade-offs between, taking it to the, to our representatives versus working with the agency. There's a risk in going over their heads at times. We have done it in the past. But the latest two hangups were getting Amtrak to respond to the review documents, which I think we've done, and I'll let you speak to that in a minute. And the latest twist that really, has basically, I wouldn't say it's on hold, but we lost some time on this, is that PECO came to the table at this review meeting and told us that they wanted to run their lines, underneath the bridge rather than aerially, and they had previously agreed to aerial. Now, if we agree to let them make that change, we're going to lose another 6 months because the whole thing has to be redesigned because it was designed around the aerial line. So I think I'll let Manager Bryant speak to it, but we're getting very close to getting PECO to make that agreement, and then we can get this thing out to bid and get moving and doing it.
I totally understand where you're coming from on this. Eric is not the engineer responsible for the project, but we've had Jim Riegel, who is responsible for the project, come before Borough Council 3 times in the last year, I remember offhand. And if you watch any of those recordings, Council was not very subtle about their feelings about where the project was at, and made clear to Jim the importance of the project. And I've been really grateful to the work that Jim has put in response to those comments from council. But obviously our engineer isn't the only component. I've been here at the borough now for almost 2 years. And, I was hoping when I started here that within a year of me starting, we would have, a shovel in the ground. And with some of these agency delays, Amtrak took a few months to get back to us. We've run into similar circumstances. The good news I can report is that we do have Amtrak. We got their comments back. They were fairly minimal comments, which was a bit of a relief for us. So really from my perspective, once we resolve this PECO issue, we're pretty much ready to submit our final approval to PennDOT and to Amtrak. The only other approval I'm aware of we need beyond that is from the Pennsylvania Utility Commission, given the various utilities that run along the bridge. Under the bridge, there are clearances for the trains and the train schedule and the construction timing in regards to that. I think we've just about worked all of that out. As you know, in the last year, Borough Council worked through all the architectural issues that remain with the bridge. We've hired a construction inspector for the bridge, which is another required part. Another big question I was concerned about at our last meeting was going to be the funding schedule for Amtrak, because they're paying for 80% of the project, PennDOT's paying for 15%, and then we're responsible for the final 5%. I had Amtrak asked me 3 weeks ago to submit a form to them by the end of February to get the project on their fiscal year 2024 schedule, and just to make everyone feel a little bit better about that, because the federal government fiscal year 2024 actually starts September 2023. So my goal at this point is certainly to get this PICO issue resolved, to get those final approvals taken care of, so that way over the summer, Borough Council can actually put a bid out, select a contractor, and then around the same time frame as when the funding from Amtrak would be available in the fall, actually start the construction work on the bridge. Now, that being said, something I've warned people about in verbal and written communication is that for the first 6 months of the project, it's not like suddenly the bridge is going to like implode or something, and then there's going to be all sorts of stuff going on. The first 6 months is going to be utility relocation, so it's not going to look like a traditional construction site. But then after that, it'll be about another year and a half where real major kind of construction is going on. So for a total 2-year construction period. So that's my experience where we're at. I certainly wished I could have been able to tell us this, a year ago. But there are various folks in Washington, D.C. and other places who kept that from happening. But I just think the bridge is a tremendously important project for, business owners in the downtown, for people who live on the south side who want to get over here, and vice versa. Even my own day-to-day experience, leaving the borough office every day, pretty much the only way people can get anywhere is through the intersection of Haverford and Linwood, and that intersection just cannot handle the amount of traffic flow that's being asked to because of the bridge being out. I almost never turn left out of Haverford if I can help it with the way the cars back up and all that. So it's a problem that affects the entire borough, and it's, I can't speak to what all did or didn't happen before my time working here, or in fact, pretty much all the other folks at the table here who weren't really involved with it in the last couple of years. I can only do my best to make it happen as quickly as possible, which is certainly what I want. And, and so I appreciate coming by the meeting to share that, to share your concern and frustration about it.
The only other thing I'll add is that, and Manager Brian said it, but we're paying for 5% of the project, so if we were paying for 100% of the project, we have a bit more leverage about how quickly it moves. But even then, we wouldn't, because if it goes over other people's property, I know that. That's the essence of it.
That was part of the project I'd forgotten about as well. Was having to secure the easements, and you may or not know, one property owner was so reluctant to cooperate with the borough with this project, the Borough Council actually had to pass an ordinance, exercise our eminent domain power, which isn't something we do lightly, given the importance of the project, to get that approval that we needed for it.
We could say. So let's move on. The town square. So I guess we're still waiting for their construction estimates. Is that correct?
We are, yeah. And I have a meeting next Thursday with staff from Simone Collins to get that worked out, get that information.
Okay.
And a little bit of bad news is we did not receive the federal grant funding that we applied for to support the continued development of the construction plans for Town Square. We are still eligible for state funding for the project, which I expect to know about in mid-May. When I meet with Simone Collins staff again next Thursday, we're going to talk through what our next steps are and how we, opportunities to continue to keep the plan and the project moving along.
Okay. And then with the 100 Conway and 80 Windsor improvements, I guess the handrails are, do you know when that's going to be completed?
We're still waiting for 2 additional contractors to come out and give us some estimates
So getting bids.
options.
Okay.
But I will say, because I do want to share that we've been doing stuff the last month here. Delco Storm and Sewer Services, you may have noticed out in Haverford, there was some sidewalk missing for a bit, and some patchwork done on the road out here, there was a stormwater pipe that had been improperly repaired a few years back that led to water backup into the first floor of the building here. And with Jeff's work with Delco Storm and Sewer, that project was completed.
And then once that's done, we can replace the corporate in the hallway.
Yeah, I actually have a meeting next week with a CoStar's vendor to talk about carpet. It's the same vendor that did the carpet here and downstairs.
Great. And then the sidewalk inspection, is on track.
Yeah, we just ordered, so, we've been in talks with Kevin Walsh, our code enforcement, to see how to best track it. And we just ordered tear sheets to be able to type them into an Excel spreadsheet that him and I will track, so.
Great. And then the curbside EV chargers are supposed to arrive today, right?
We took half of the shipment yesterday, the other half is expected within the next couple of hours. Okay, so I reached out to Keith Martin, because I know they want to come and inspect them so they can get their sizing for their concrete rates.
And we're gonna have to reapply for the rebates because we missed the period, but that's gonna work out.
And you may have noticed, depending on where you parked today, that Keith Martin has already started some of the work in the parking lot out here for installing the new charger.
And then, I guess they came out and inspected the roof at AD Windsor. Did they find any problems with it, or we don't know yet?
There were a few joists up there because the exterior walls are beginning to pull outside. So he is putting together his recommendation on the way to kind of relax what's happening there and hold the walls true.
But then he also found something about the foundation there.
We had just expressed some concern from the way the HVAC was installed years ago. So with him saying that he didn't use every fund that was allotted for his inspection, that we had additional to inspect the foundation, he thought it would be a wise choice to get down there.
Okay. And then I know we're short-staffed right now, but what's the sense of this Elmwood stream bed project when that is going to start to get done?
Yeah, so the main thing we have to do with that, it's been budgeted for this year. It's just a matter of putting together bid docs, and my understanding is putting bid docs together and all that. Now, to be fair to our borough engineer, we're still finishing up everything, closing out the stormwater bump out project. And our next item on the list, I know Eric's been actively working on, in addition to the other projects going on around the borough. So that's the main status on that.
And then this low-volume road grant, I mean, I guess would be in a similar category where we've got the money and we just have to get the documents together.
Pretty much, that's...
Yeah, so, and that's the reason that one kind of, by virtue of we were able to secure the grant funding, that project kind of jumped up above the stream, the Elmwood stream crossing. So you got it largely, almost entirely funded by a grant. I just got our surveyors, just yesterday I received the existing conditions plan for the intersection, and actually as I was sitting here, I got a message from my staff saying that they're going to start working on the design of it this week. So that one is moving right along. That's the stormwater, installing the new stormwater collection system to catch all the water coming down Woodside, and installing water quality as part of the project.
Okay, and so I guess one other item, maybe you could give us like a quick update on where we stand on the outdoor dining. It doesn't have to be a long update, I'm just curious. Is more of a time frame when we're going to have that? I know it's not due for a little while.
Sure. So we're about outdoor dining. It's in November. Borough Council passed a resolution that stated basically, at some point the borough was not going to continue to provide the Jersey barriers, and the business owners would need to comply with the new aesthetic guidelines for the outdoor dining. Myself and our code officer have been working to communicate that to the existing permittees, those being Great American, Nana's, the Greeks, and Ryan Christopher's. I understand that the Narberth Business Association has announced a program where they're going to work with business owners to provide some funding for the replacement of those exterior, safety barriers. And so, I look forward to seeing what property owners come up with. In terms of time frame, we're communicating to people that when their existing permits expire, which is around May, is the point where they'll need to be in compliance with the new aesthetic guidelines and about when the borough will be taking away the Jersey barricades, barriers.
Okay. Thank you. Do you folks, Michelle, or do you have any other topics you'd like to raise, or? No, I mean, I guess maybe one thing to mention is no.
Okay. So you're making sure I'm on the 80.
I'm trying, no, I have to decide what's, can be discussed in public and what can't be, so.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay, so barring that, I look for a motion. Do you have any to add, Jack? This is going well. Oh, that was, now I remember, and this is not controversial. So it doesn't look like it's snowing this year, so I guess the skate park is like more on a day-to-day basis.
It's gonna happen, yeah.
Closed for the season. It might be closed today, but it's not.
Yeah.
But it's not, it doesn't appear as though it's going to close for the season.
At the rate we've been trucking along now. So.
And so when do we have to decide about its future?
Well, I guess it's really up to council. There's not like a hard deadline. Obviously, the equipment that we got, we went through extensive review and analysis to make sure the equipment we have is safe for continued use for a period of time. And Public Works did a number of repairs to that equipment to also make sure it would be acceptable for use for a period of time. Nothing lasts forever.
But when is the pilot over?
Well, there's no defined. I guess what I'm trying to say is there's no hard deadline on any of it. My advice to council at this point, and I don't think it would have been the same even if we had closed the pilot for the winter, would have been to reopen it and to keep that ongoing until the master park plan is concluded.
So maybe we could convey that. I mean, it doesn't have to be at this Thursday meeting, but we could put that on the agenda for the following meeting, just to maybe more informational, or just.
Meeting of council?
Yeah.
We'll figure out a way to communicate that.
Okay. Okay, I leave it to you. Okay. So now I can entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Thank you.